Elon Musk is about to get doged after complaining about the one big beautiful bill and talking about all the massive spending increases and how this was going to destroy the economy, and actually pushing on X for a third party to be created to go against President Donald Trump or the Republicans in 2028. President Donald Trump had enough, and in the wee small hours of the morning, about 1 a.m., he took to Truth Social to write about his former friend, new enemy, or frenemy, as the kids call it, Elon Musk. He wrote, "Elon Musk knew long before he strongly endorsed me for president that I was strongly against the EV mandate. It is ridiculous and was always a major part of my campaign. Electric cars are fine, but not everyone should be forced to own one. Elon may get more subsidy than any human being in history by far, and without subsidies, Elon would probably have to close up shop and head back home to South Africa. No more rocket launches, satellites, or electric car production, and our country would save a fortune. Perhaps we should have Doge take a good hard look at this. Big money to be saved." So while Elon Musk is going on and on about how much money the government is spending, and while Elon Musk is complaining about how much President Donald Trump is proposing for additional spending in his one big beautiful bill, President Donald Trump is saying, you know what? You know where we spend a lot of money? With SpaceX, with Tesla, with the Boring Company, with all of Elon Musk's intergalactic properties. And maybe if we really want to save some money, we should take a look at what we're spending on trips to Mars or proposed trips to Mars. It's interesting how quickly the tide has turned. And while we thought Elon Musk was maybe coming back into the fold, or at least settling down, as the one big beautiful bill gets closer to passage, you can see a lot of people upping the ante when it comes to their antagonism against it, or when it comes to their objections to it, none of which, however, seem to be fully sustained, especially when you look at what's truly in the one big beautiful bill. And Karoline Leavitt, White House press secretary, was touting it yesterday in her press briefing as truly one of the most conservative pieces of legislation we've ever had in this country's history.
This is one of the most fiscally conservative pieces of legislation that has ever made its way through Capitol Hill. There's $2 trillion in mandatory savings in this bill. And not only that, the projected growth that this bill will bring to our economy. It will be an economic boom. The Council of Economic Advisors has an analysis that shows that the bill will generate $4.1 trillion in economic growth, and it will cut taxes, putting more money back into the American people's pockets. That's why this president wants this bill to pass, and I know he's busy working the phones and doing what he needs to do today to make it happen.
And I'm sure that includes a lot of threats. I'm just kidding. But I'm sure he's wheeling, he's dealing, he's doing whatever he needs to do to get it done. But Karoline Leavitt said it's something that we must pass for the financial and fiscal future of everyone in the United States of America.
And it's also incredibly important that we pass this one big beautiful bill, which is the largest tax cuts in American history. And that's why the White House and the president himself have been in touch with lawmakers all weekend long to get this bill passed. And they are working very hard to do so. It remains a top priority for the president. And this bill has exposed the clear differences between Republicans and Democrats in 2025. The Democrats are doubling down on craziness and radical policies that are undermining the very fabric of our country. Just look at the Democrat nominee for New York City Mayor, Zohran Mamdani. He's a Democrat socialist, really a communist, who proudly calls to defund the police, peddles anti-Semitism, praises pro-Hamas groups, wants Israel abolished, and believes wealthy Americans should not exist.
So basically, he's just your average, ordinary, run-of-the-mill Democrat. And that's something the Democrats are touting again as well. It's just a tax cut for billionaires. It's actually a tax cut for Americans, for all Americans. And that is one of the sticking points when the Democrats try to come to the floor to argue why President Donald Trump's bad. Or even when some of the conservatives, the fiscal hawks, if you will, come to the floor to try to argue that it's bad. They talk about all the massive spending, but they don't talk about the necessity for massive tax cuts, codifying the original Trump tax cuts, and of course, bringing to light all of the new tax cuts like no tax on tips. And Kevin Hassett, the director of the National Economic Council, the president's National Economic Council, was more than happy to describe again why no tax on tips and overtime is a good thing.
It does not harm low-income families. And think about this. About 90 million people out there are hourly workers who are going to benefit from the no tax on overtime. Think about all the workers that count so much on their tips, so we're not going to tax the tips. Think about the seniors that maybe want to make a little extra money because they don't think Social Security is as much as they expected. They go back to work. They don't have to give up 50 cents on the dollar of their Social Security benefit. There's so many ordinary folks that benefit directly from those things. And then, of course, there's the stuff from the first term, the indirect effects of just more capital spending, more jobs, more real wages, and so on. And so right now, our expectation is that at least $10,000 is going to be the benefit for the typical family if we pass this bill. If we don't pass the bill, then we're going to see a 4% drop in GDP and a recession almost overnight.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like recession overnight is a bad thing. Also, Social Security. A lot of people have been saying, well, there's no reduction of taxes on Social Security, but in a way there is. And the president and the Economic Council, his National Economic Council, and everyone else have been more than happy to describe exactly how that works. In fact, they released this, the No Tax on Social Security Senate draft bill. The One Big Beautiful Bill provides a new bonus deduction of $6,000 for seniors age 65 and older, $12,000 for married seniors beginning in 2025. This amounts to the largest tax break in American history for our nation's seniors. The new deduction is on top of the standard deduction and the current law additional deduction for seniors. Under the One Big Beautiful Bill, 51.4 million seniors, 88% of all seniors receiving Social Security income, will pay no tax on their Social Security. I'm not a senior. I don't pay Social Security, but I imagine that for seniors who do, that would be an incredible amount of savings. So when it comes to conservatism, when it comes to all of the ideals of the conservative movement in the Republican Party, this seems to check the box. Tax cuts for everybody. No tax on tips. Taxation is theft. How many times have we heard that? And now you've got Republicans and Democrats screaming, no, we need this taxation is bad because it comes with massive spending. Let's talk about the spending though too, because the spending again is also on things that are highly conservative. For example, border security, and Tom Homan has become one of the most vocal and one of the most eloquent people to speak about border security. And he's so emotional whenever he talks about the folks that he's met who've been affected and how our border and his efforts and Donald Trump's administration and his agenda to increase and beef up border security and get rid of and deport all of the illegal criminal aliens has been transformative for the health and safety of America, of actual American citizens.
Yeah, look, he just proved he's not very smart. Bottom line is, the reason border crossings are so low, because we're enforcing the law. Enforcing the law that him, as a member of Congress, enacted. The law clearly says, it's under statute, if you arrive at our borders without proper documentation, you shall be detained. Not maybe, not think about it, not release them to an NGO and put them in a hotel room $500 a night. We stopped catch and release. We are detaining and removing. That's exactly what we're doing. We're enforcing laws that Congress enacts, and we're not going to apologize for doing it. Bottom line is, we got the most secure border in the history of this nation because of Donald Trump, and I'm proud to be a part of it.
He was, of course, responding to Senator Chris Murphy, who has been going out lying in a concerted effort to try to thwart this bill. But there is way more truth out there than there is misinformation coming from the Democrat Party. One of the other parts of this is, of course, American prosperity. And when you talk about the One Big Beautiful Bill, when you talk about any conservative legislation, there's, conservative values include not only national defense, border security, but also prosperity at home, smaller government, which I know people are saying, how can it be smaller government when there's $5 trillion in spending? But there's smaller government and hands-off government that is going to allow Americans to thrive while also boosting the economy.
Well, it absolutely, Charlie. And of course, you summed it up. President Trump, what an incredible start he's had to his presidency. And this bill really cements not just peace abroad, but prosperity at home. And two of the pillars of prosperity at home is the energy dominance, which is going to help. It's driving down inflation already. We got the lowest gas prices this country's seen in 4 years. And then border security. These are two things that President Trump ran on. And this bill delivers that for the American people.
And think of all that money we're going to save when we stop sending Elon Musk's rockets into space. But Stephen Miller, who's the deputy, Stephen, let me take that again. Stephen Miller, who is the deputy chief of staff in charge of border security, but also national security and, well, pretty much anything else that Donald Trump does these days. He was on with Sean Hannity, and he got very emotional about how conservative and how fiscally responsible and how good this one big beautiful bill is in his eyes, and how the anti-one big beautiful bill sentiment is actually anti-American and anti-conservative sentiment.
I've spent my entire life in the conservative movement. Since I was a kid in high school, working, dreaming of the day where we could have a piece of legislation like what exists right now, Sean, what President Trump has brought to the precipice of passage. Each and every one of the individual titles in this bill would be considered one of the great achievements in the history of the conservative movement. The title, for example, building the missile defense shield for the United States of America, Sean, so we can be safe, our children can be safe from foreign adversaries in this growing era of intercontinental ballistic missiles as nations race for supremacy. The section on this bill enshrining border and homeland security, this is the most far-reaching border security proposal, homeland security proposal in my lifetime. Sean, not just my lifetime, going back to Eisenhower, going back to since we've had conversations about the border, Sean. I take this seriously. I've stood by the families whose kids have been murdered by illegal aliens. We made them a promise. Most importantly, the American people voted to fulfill that promise in the last election. This bill fulfills it. It is the largest tax cut and reform in American history. No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, 100% expensing for new factories. Think about that. Every single business owner with a dream of manufacturing in America can deduct 100% of that cost to make the American dream come true here in the United States. Here's another one for you, Sean. The largest welfare reform in American history.
And it goes on and on and on. There you can see there's a tally list in the background of all of the amazing things that this does. But when you're talking about border security, when you're talking about a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to set up newborn children with $1,000 Trump accounts, when you're talking about the ability to cut taxes and codify the tax cuts that are already there, when you're talking about the ability to protect ourselves from foreign adversaries with an increased military shield, when you're talking about new business growth and manufacturing, I mean, all of the tax deductions alone make this bill worth it. The problem now is, of course, the Democrats and the Republicans in the center trying to add stuff that is not conservative to this bill. The Senate parliamentarian also getting in the way of some things that need to be in the bill but are not, and weak-kneed, spineless Republicans not doing anything about removing them from their positions so that we can move forward with a bill that we all agree will be the best thing for America and America's future. We are very excited today, by the way, because President Donald Trump will be visiting the newly created and about to open Alligator Alley in Florida. He will be attending the opening celebration of Alligator Alley with Governor Ron DeSantis, Byron Donalds, Kristi Noem will be there, a slew of dangerous, deadly reptiles. It's going to be fantastic. And Caroline Levitt opened up her press briefing yesterday with that announcement.
On a scheduling note, tomorrow, President Trump will travel to the great state of Florida to attend the opening of a new illegal alien detention center located at Dade Collier Training and Transition Airport alongside Secretary Kristi Noem, Governor Ron DeSantis, Congressman Byron Donalds, and other state and local leaders. We hope to see many of you there. The facility is in the heart of the Everglades and will be informally known as Alligator Alcatraz. There is only one road leading in, and the only way out is a one-way flight. It is isolated and surrounded by dangerous wildlife and unforgiving terrain. The facility will have up to 5,000 beds to house, process, and deport criminal illegal aliens. This is an efficient and low-cost way to help carry out the largest mass deportation campaign in American history.
Speaking as somebody from the great free state of Florida, let me tell you, the alligators aren't the problem. It's the mosquitoes that are really going to do some damage for you. We will be bringing you that information live later today during Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. President Donald Trump is scheduled to be at Alligator Alley at 10 a.m. Mark Kaye Saves the Republic, our second daily podcast with even more news, with even more information, with even more updates, with even more interviews, with even more commentary. And I know what you're thinking to yourself, how can there be any more? Well, there can be. And all you have to do is find us online. We live stream at 1 p.m. Eastern every single day, Monday through Friday, on all of our live streaming platforms. Or if you prefer to listen at your leisure, go to whatever your favorite podcasting platform is, whether it's iTunes or Spotify or iHeartRadio, whatever it is. Search for Mark Kaye Saves the Republic, download, listen, and enjoy.